Thanks for joining us at Shannons Club TV, the show for all Shannons Club members and everyone passionate about their cars and motorcycles. Here on the Shannons Club website, you can find a huge range of stories on classic cars by motor racing historian Mark Oastler and myself.
You know, the great response we've had from these paired histories continues to grow with our membership. So we're bringing them to life here on Shannons Club TV with some very rare footage and photographs. Let's get things rolling with a close look at the car that made the sports coupe accessible to all ages, the Ford Capri.
The Ford Capri, even as a four-cylinder model, was a sensation on its 1969 launch in Australia. Yet within months of its arrival, Holden's aggressive new Tirana GTR had stolen its thunder with its six-cylinder engine and muscle car styling. The battle lines had been drawn for another epic Ford versus Holden stoush in the showrooms and on the racetrack. Ford countered with a revised and cheaper Capri range with higher local content in March 1970. It included a new V6 powered Capri 3000 GT, launched just 5 months after the British version, with a modest but easily justified price premium over the Tirana GTR. Australian examples were powered by the Essex 3-litre V6 from the British Zephyr, a very different engine from the Cologne 2.8-litre V6. It was teamed with a 4-speed manual, also adapted from earlier Zephyrs, and not its best point, yet there was always something special about this car. Mark, the Capri seemed to be far more successful on Aussie racetracks than in the showroom. Why was that?
Well, it wasn't that successful on the racetrack when it started. The rule structure at the time put it in a price category where it was competing with outright cars. What changed was the introduction of Group C rules in 1973. That created an under 3-litre class, and all of a sudden the Capri, with its lovely little size, its torquey V6 engine, fantastic power to weight ratio, turned it into an instant winner.
And it's never looked back.
Amazing.
Just as Australians were taking a real shine to the Capri V6 with its slick styling, classy cabin, superb handling balance and sweet exhaust note, Holden delivered another king hit with the first XU1. It was the beginning of the end. The figures tell the story. After posting almost 1,700 sales in just 9 months during 1970, Capri demand plummeted to 720 in 1971 and then to just 625 in 1972. It then took until 1973 to clear all the stragglers. An important 1971 power and transmission upgrade that had to be postponed added to this slump. Faced with too many local choices and a Capri price tag inflated by imported components, Australians quickly moved on. Yet Aussie Capris with their extra body strength were always desirable. Local touches including paint, stripes, trim, mirrors, bonnet locks and other parts added to the mystique, which continues to grow to this day. Mark, the Capri must be one of the few cars that would enjoy its greatest moments on the racetrack, but you can no longer buy one.
Yeah, weren't there some people dirty about that? When they saw how successful the car was on the racetrack, they really wished they'd bought one when they could. If you'd like to read the full road and race history of the Ford Capri, or indeed any other classic cars, you'll find them all here on the Shannons Club website, where you can also connect with other club members. Stay with us as we hit the road with a proud Ford Capri enthusiast, and we get the latest auction updates with Hammer Time. The Mark I Ford Capri V6 dominated the 3-litre class in Australian touring car racing in the 1970s. But without doubt the wildest and most exciting V6 Capri to race here during that time was the RS 3100 factory race car driven by Alan Moffat. Now, this exotic beast was one of only a handful built by Ford's European factory team in Cologne, Germany. They were built to take on arch-rival BMW in the 1974 European Touring Car Championship, which, under the FIA's liberal Group 2 rules, allowed for wild modifications that were far beyond those allowed in Australian touring cars at the time. The Cologne Capri was dripping with exotic racing hardware and powered by a quad-cam, fuel-injected, 450 brake horsepower Cosworth V6 that could rev to a staggering 9,000 RPM. With side-mounted radiators, huge front and rear spoilers and enormous wheel arch flares that were housing tyres up to 16 inches wide, the 1974 Cologne Capris were built to Formula One standard with a win-at-all-costs approach. Joe, to meet FIA homologation, these wild Cologne Capris were based on a minimum build of 250 RS 3100 road cars, which went on sale in 1974. But Ford struggled to find buyers for these, which seems odd today, given their race connections and their rarity. What happened there?
Well, they're the old model for a start. The Australian market had shifted. The Charger was the new six-cylinder king, Tirana was going V8, and Ford was well and truly entrenched in their 351 program. No one really wanted a six anymore, or especially a small one. And I think that's why they had some real difficulty. And I don't think homologation special meant as much then, because we were so used to it in this country.
And the car didn't sell well in Europe either.
Well, that, again, because it was old and it fell behind the facelift. So they were trying to sell a version of the old car.
Amazing. Unfortunately, what promised to be the battle of all battles between Ford and BMW in the 74 ETCC didn't eventuate due to the Arab-Israeli war that triggered a global energy crisis and severe disruption to the factory racing programs. However, at the end of the season, Moffat was able to use his strong connections within Ford's global network to secure one of the works cars and ship it back to Australia to compete in sports sedan racing. Although it won first time out, it soon became apparent that the imported V6 thoroughbred, which had been built for long distance racing on fast European circuits, was not ideal for Australia's shorter tracks and shorter sprint races. Even so, the RS3100 played a key role in Moffat winning the inaugural Australian Sports Sedan Championship in 1976. Hope you're enjoying Shannons Club TV. Why not join the Shannons Club and share your passion for unique, rare and classic cars and motorbikes with other enthusiasts across the country. Keep up to date with the latest news, events and exclusive offers from Shannons.
Hi, my name's Ken and this is my 1972 Ford Capri GT V6. It runs a 3-litre V6 motor with a 4-speed transmission. Yeah, the Capri, I started off liking these after my father asked me to find one for him, and then after driving it and really appreciating the style of the car, the size of the car, it handles and drives extremely well. And I love the bulge in the bonnet. It was one of the first Fords that had the bonnet bulge in it, the stripes and just the nostalgia of the early 70s muscle cars. I guess one of the favourite memories I have of this car is when we initially sourced it. I spent a fair bit of time with my father looking for another Capri. When we did finally see it, my father and I both fell in love with it, and it was originally purchased for him. And then after he realised it was too good to be driven as a daily driver, then I got to take it to shows, etc. And then when he passed away, the car was passed on to me, and now I'm passing it on to my son. Well, I've got a lot of other cars of different makes and models, but this one in particular, I guess I love the styling of it. The car itself is just in beautiful condition. The red interior with the white car I've always loved. You really go back in time and it's really like a time warp when you drive one, and you do have to be careful in braking and coming up to pass other people because everyone's looking at the car and they tend to swerve over closer to you, so I'm very mindful when I drive it.
Well, Shannon's National Auctions Manager, Chris Borabon, joins us. Welcome back to the show, Chris.
Hi guys.
Hi, Chris. Chris, Capri values seem to have taken a real hike over recent years. What's been going on?
Yeah, it's been good, hasn't it? I mean, we've nearly seen them double in the last 10 years, and look, there's really great demand out there for the 1600 and also the rare V6 GTs. Been great.
What do you think? What do you think's driving that?
I think the muscle car market boom has helped those two cars along. When you look at the V6 GT, its striping, the Subaru on the front guard, the matte black bonnet, it really had that racy feel about it, and quite a pretty car.
Yes, it did have some style, didn't it?
I mean, even the interior was quite nice, quite really nicely finished.
And I guess that racing heritage, it was a very successful car in motorsport throughout the 70s and into the 80s with the later models. So I guess, you know, anything that has that sort of racing heritage, it seems to, you know, inspire or enthuse buyers.
And today, mate, we're seeing a lot more of the Capris out there in historic racing. You know, even Bo Seaton's still out there in the Group N racing, and it's fantastic. And I think that's probably been part of a resurgence of those cars.
And from Europe, we saw, I think it was 250 RS3100 homologation cars made back in '74. I think about 50 of those came here. Do you ever see those things come up?
Pretty rare. We don't see them come across the auction house. I mean, I'd say again, you know, if they do come up, probably be in private hands and changing hands amongst the clubs.
And that's an interesting story because they were sent here because they couldn't get rid of them in the UK because they were the old model. Very hard to sell here because they cost almost double the normal Capri, yet now I imagine they're absolutely desirable.
They've got to be, don't they? I mean, you know, we've only 50 coming out here. Again, we don't know how many are left here in existence. So it definitely is a desirable car.
Well, thanks for joining us, Chris, for another episode of Hammer Time. And keep in mind, all the latest Shannons auction news is available on the Shannons Club website. Here at Shannons Club, we always use autopics.com.au, Australia's largest motorsport photographic archive. If you're looking for that special image of the Ford Capri in action, you're sure to find it in the Autopics archive of over 760,000 photographs. Quite incredible. Joe, what's the legacy we take away from the Capri era in Australia?
Well, the focus has been on the V6, but we mustn't forget that it was the four-cylinder that established that accessible sporty coupe. And it's interesting that just as Ford took it away from the market in around 1972-73, the Toyota Celica with the same capacity engine, 1600, just walked in and never looked back.
Incredible. And just a reminder, we've already done a feature story on the Toyota Celica, which you can read all about on the Shannons Club website. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of Shannons Club TV. We look forward to your company next time.